Good morning. It's Amy here from the Ross Farm, and you're watching Sheep and Wool School, our new podcast, vlog, whatever, from our studio here in Ohio. The farm is back in Pennsylvania, and it's lambing season, so there's a lot going on. Before we get started, I'd love to encourage you to subscribe and like the channel and the video. That really does help us to find new viewers and continue with the production of the series. So let's get right into it, shall we? So first up for our segment on the wheel is the Spin Together team. We have a few new members this week, so I wanted to thank them for joining our team and welcome them to our Spin Together team for 2025. So thank you and welcome to Hez and Melinda and Kathy for joining our team. The cherry knob, the tension knob for my Hanson Classic Cherry e-spinner did come this week, but I do not have it on yet because I'm a little overwhelmed and a little bit nervous, and I'm gonna have to go to YouTube and see if I can find instructions on exactly how to do it. I'm sure I can figure it out, but sometimes I just watch the YouTube videos to get a little bit of confidence before I give it a shot myself. I just feel like if I have a better overview of what I'm doing, then I'm not so nervous when I'm doing it. So I'm a little bit anxious about replacing the knob, but it has to be done because the other one is missing and I can't use my Hanson until I do that. So that's what's on the wheel this week is anxiety. On the needles, I am working on the test knit for the new Thea Colman design, which I'm extremely excited about. I can't really show you much of anything except this is it. It is knit in my Ashen Wensleydale, which is one of our yarns from the UK. It is shiny and silky and absolutely beautiful. These fleeces were raised by Ashen Wensleydales, which is the largest natural color flock in the UK. And the flock is operated by my friend James Perry and his business partner Claire. So every time I put a couple stitches in, I think about James, and I can't wait to see him again. He is Long Draw James on social media, and he's a really, really, really interesting guy. He's actually got a PhD in the chemistry of wool washing and dyeing, which is super specific and really cool. So I can't wait to see him and show him my Ashen Wensleydale piece that I'm making that I can't tell you about. So I can't pick it up and show it to you. I can just show you that it is this lovely shade, and I have quite a bit of it done. I have a couple more inches before I do the next thing. So that's getting really exciting. The other thing I mentioned last week about my Shiny Squirrel, and this is it. I thought I'd show it to you since it's a shiny squirrel and it's very distracting to me right now. So I may end up casting this on this week because with the ADD, I really like having a lot of projects. This is a mostly silk, partially linen yarn from Oink Pigments, and the design of the kit is a thing called Bias by Helena Bristow, and it is basically just a big wrap, and it's a mostly silk, very, very soft yarn. So I'm kind of excited about that. And with all the pops of red and green and purple in it, it's kind of making me think of tulips and hyacinths, and I think that's why I want to cast it on so badly, because here in gray February, Ohio, I just really need to start thinking about my garden, and we'll get to that later. Foreshadowing. So as far as technique time goes, I am still getting our home studio ready so that we can start filming a few little technique videos. I think the first one up is going to be my mitered corners when I'm doing the binding on my quilts, because that always seems to stump people And that seems to be the one thing that people have the most anxiety about that I talk to, about working with putting the bindings on their quilts. They're always really panicked about how to do the corners to get that nice crisp mitered corner. So I think that's going to be the first technique video. And I think the second one is probably going to be how I spin. A while ago, there was a series on social media where people would post videos of themselves spinning with the hashtag how I spin. And I think I may do that and just talk about like the different ways that I like to spin. And my spinning style sort of changes depending on which of my devices I'm using. Like my spinning style on a big Saxony, a 30-inch Saxony, like my Shacked Reeves or my Lendrum, it's a very different technique. And like I didn't realize it until I started thinking about it. Then I use when I'm spinning with my e-spinners because they're so portable, and you know, I can be very close to them or I can be very far away from them. And so my spinning style is a little bit different when I do the e-spinning. So that's going to be our first and second technique video, I think. The third one may be skirting fleeces because I have some fleeces to skirt, and I may do that one day when Melinda is here with me in the studio. Melinda is, well, she's the closest thing I have to a daughter, but she's also our sheep shearer. She's boss mare shearing, and she does an excellent job at that. But she's really learning an awful lot about fleece and wool and preparation. And so I think maybe the two of us together working on skirting a fleece might be an interesting technique video. So that's what I have in mind for that. If there's something you really like to see a technique video on, I'm also doing several projects that I'm working on have central double decreases. So I was thinking about doing SSK, K2, TOG, and central double decrease so that you can see the difference in the way things lean and kind of get an idea of that. So if there's something you'd really like to see a technique video on, please drop it in the comments down below. Or if any of the things that I've mentioned sound really interesting or really stupid, also drop that in the comments down below. And, you know, I read everything, so that would be fun to know. In Finish It or Frog It, I actually dragged the Carbeth out of my project bags so that you can see where I am in the project. As I said, this is a bulky weight yarn that was a very, very, very limited run, so I'm knitting myself something with it. I have the body done, which is very short. And now that I'm a little bit older, and we're going to say taller, but that's not what I'm really saying, I think I might knit an inch or two more on the body to make it just a little bit longer. And then this is the sleeve from Sleeve Island. And the way it's constructed, you knit the body and then you knit the sleeves and then you join it all together. So that's where I am on that process. And I thought it might be interesting for you to see the Carbeth that I knit in 2019 while I was in the car with Scooter Pie. We went to the last Amy Herzog retreat in Maine. And when we got to Maine, we stopped at Knitwit Yarn Shop in Portland, Maine. And I picked up enough of the Quince & Company Osprey to knit the Carbeth, which is a sweater that I had in my library in Ravelry and was very excited about knitting. So I cast on when we pulled out of the parking lot. Actually, the first thing I did was while he was getting back onto the highway, I wound one of the skeins up into a ball without making a huge mess, which was kind of amazing. And then I cast on the Carbeth while he was driving us all around Maine. And I knit on it while we were at the retreat. And I actually finished it either on the ride home or shortly after we arrived home. But I knit it fairly quickly because it's kind of a mindless knit. The only paying attention you need to do is when you're doing the increases on the sleeves or the decreases on the yoke portion, the top of the sweater. And I really like this I really like this kind of funnel neckline, but I think I'm going to adjust it a little bit differently the next time I knit it. So this is the Carbeth, and it's this beautiful kind of burgundy red color, and it matches my new shoes. So I wore it today. So that was really exciting. So that's what I'm doing for Finish or Frog It. And that gets us to our favorite time together, the sheep and wool school portion. So I'm very excited because today we're going to talk about their fiber. So we're talking about the Jacob sheep. And again, we have several products available on the website. If you are doing our anything along and you want to work on a Jacob project with us, then that would be super, and we'd love that. We have several, actually there's a couple behind me. We have several Jacob skeins available on the website. We have Chief, which is the bulky, Darwin, the worsted, Alice, the fingering, and Willow, the two-tone. Coming to the website very soon is 2 different skeins that I brought in from the Natural Fiber Company from the UK. I bought some fleeces from my friends over there and had them process that as well. And I only got a couple of cones out of it, so I've just skeined them up. They're ready to launch on the website. They're all ready to go. I did not bring those over here, but I did take a photo of them. So that will pop up at some point while we're talking about the Jacob fiber. So the first thing I wanted to mention about Jacob fiber is that it is about a 3 to 5 inch staple length. And I actually brought some Jacob fiber over here with me today for us to look at together. And these are both fleeces from our flock of sheep. And this is traditional black and white here on this side, and it's about a 3 inch staple length. And based on the tips of this one, I'm going to say this is actually a lamb fleece. It's a little bit shorter, and it is very, very soft. So we raise our sheep for fleece, of course. So ours are probably a little bit softer than you're normally going to find in an American flock. It just depends on what the particular shepherd is looking for in their flock. But you can't see this, but these have little teeny tiny curls on the end, which is what leads me to believe that it's actually a lamb fleece. And then the Jacob fleece comes in 2 very distinct colorways: the traditional black and white, which looks like this. And when you get to see the photos of the sheep, you'll see a couple of black and white photos, a couple of photos of the black and white ones. And then this is the lilac that we talked about briefly last week, and we're going to talk about this week. And you see it is kind of a heathery gray-brown, oatmeal-y color and white. And you see side by side how very different the 2 colorways are. You cannot mistake one for the other. Even a sun-bleached traditional black and white is never going to look like the lilac fleece. The lilac is about the same staple length. Let me pull out a chunk here and look at it. And it also has the tip, so I'm going to guess this is also one of our lamb fleeces, but it's also about a 3 inch staple length. My adults will easily grow a 5 inch staple length, no problem. That's what the other thing that makes me think that this is also a lamb fleece, is because it has a bit of a shorter staple length. Because remember, ours are arriving in March, April, May, and they are being shorn the following year in like March. So they have a little bit less fleece on them their first year. So Jacob is considered to be a medium fleece. It's a 25 to 33 micron count, some a little bit lower, some a little bit higher. It's very, very solidly medium. Mine is probably on the lower micron end of it just because we select for fleece. And when we're choosing a new ram, we always look at his fleece type, his color, and the crimp and lock structure of his fleece, because our next generation is going to be 50% that guy. So he needs to be absolutely stellar. We got a new Jacob Ram this year from my friend Jess. Strangely enough, Jess's mother is the one who got me into Jacob's sheep in the first place. She passed away several years ago, but she was a very good friend of mine. And when I decided in the late 2000s that I wanted to get into rare breeds, Jess's mother, Marcia, steered me toward Jacob sheep, Tunis sheep, and Cotswolds, actually, which the Cotswolds ended up, I like the Leicester Longwools better, but, and the Tunis really were very similar to my Cheviots, so I didn't really get attached to them, but the Jacob definitely stuck. And as I've told you, it's Drew's absolute favorite. So these are fleeces from our flock and very exciting to me. So the Jacob sheep has a lot of spots. They are called a piebald, which is kind of the British word for spotted. They can be even speckly. Speckly really isn't terribly desirable, but it happens quite a bit. There's actually a Jacob sheep farm called Patchwork Jacobs, and that's exactly what it looks like to me. It looks like a patchwork quilt that's put together with a white sheep with big black patches all over it. Our sheep tend to be a little bit darker than most. A lot of people try to breed for a lot of white, but I really like them to kind of be balanced, even maybe a little bit on the darker side, than definitely more white. Now, that is a very different thing from the UK. And in the UK, the sheep are a little bit larger, and they are not really so much prized for the fleeces. So I'm going to show you a photo of my friend in Ireland showing his sheep from his flock. And I met him when we were in the UK the last time, and we went to a county fair in Ireland, actually in Northern Ireland. And he was there. He's Tyre-Lugan Jacobs, and Paul was just absolutely delightful. I just fell in love with him, and he wanted desperately for us to send over a lilac ram because they weren't able to find any lilac rams, and he had 4 lilac ewes that he wanted to find a lilac ram for. And so we've had a lot of conversations about trying to get different Jacob sheep back and forth across the Atlantic, which is a very, very difficult, costly, and time-consuming project. It's very possible that the lilac ram that I would want to send today might not even still be alive by the time we got approved to send his product over there. So I wanted to show his sheep and my sheep so that you can see the difference between the UK Jacob, which is considered to be a separate breed, than the American Jacob. The American Jacob is a little bit finer fleece in my estimation. And when you see the yarns that we had made, they are definitely a much different texture than my yarns from the UK Jacobs. And if you look at the photos that I took, the very dark one is my Jacob, because we just talked about how I really like my Jacobs to have a lot more black on them than most people do. And there's a lot more white on the UK Jacobs as well. That's why you'll see that the 2 shades of Jacob that I had made in the UK are a much, much lighter shade than the Jacob that I produced from my flock. So the coolest thing to me about the Jacob fleece is that you can very easily make yourself either the barber pole yarn like I showed you the willow back here. You can either make yourself a barber pole yarn like this by separating the fleece out into the two distinct colors, or you can blend the colors together in different percentages to create yourself a true natural gradient from white to black through several grays, however many you'd want to do. Usually for a gradient, I do about 5. So I would do 100% white and 100% black on both ends. And then I would do 20%, 25% black, 75% white, 50-50, and then 75% black, 25% white to get my gradient. So that's a really fun thing to do. My favorite thing about working with raw fleeces is, or processing fleeces myself, is the control that you have over the outcome and what shade your product ends up to be. When we run Jacob roving, we just blend everything together and it turns into a beautiful heathery kind of a steel gray. But the thing that I love to do most is when we have those rovings made is to have them only blended so far, not run to the point that they're completely homogeneous. I like them to be very streaky because I feel like that adds a lot of visual texture when I'm hand spinning. So those are some of my very favorite things about the Jacob breed. And again, don't forget to tag us in social media, Facebook or Instagram, or comment here on YouTube about what you have been working on, whether it's the Cheviot from January or the Jacob this month, so that we can see what you are making for our hashtag anything along. And I'm going through all my goodies here and trying to find things that I think you might enjoy for little prizes that we will draw in March for anybody who has tagged us Ross Farm or Ross Farm Fibers, depending on the social media, and use the hashtag anything along. So definitely share that with your friends and post what you're working on so that we can put you into the drawing in March for a cute little something from us for making with us. So yeah, I'm really excited. It's been so much fun. So much fun. Jacobs are one of my favorites. Can you tell? Like Cheviots I've loved most of my life. But the minute Ringo came up the driveway, and our first was Ringo. He was a weather and neutered male. And he just was there for comic relief and fleeces. And he really made an impression on Drew and I. And I think Drew's Jacob flock now is about 45 head. He has quite a few more Jacob and Cheviots than a lot of our other breeds. So that's the Jacob for this week. Next week, we'll talk about something else about the Jacob. So the next segment is my sewing stuff. And this week, I've been doing a lot with the Polka Dot Pincushion Challenge. When we recorded last week, I didn't know yet what the challenge was going to be. I think I told you a little bit about the challenge last month. Last month, I did the log cabin tree skirt that I got finished before the end of the month. But their UFO challenge, at the beginning, at actually the middle of December, you join the challenge and you create a spreadsheet that has 14 different unfinished object projects that you would like to complete in the coming year. So for 2025, I have a list of 14 of my unfinished object projects for quilting, sewing, that I have submitted. And then each month on the last day of the month, they draw a number for the coming month, and that's the project you work on for that month. So for February, the number was 14, and that was, in all my infinite wisdom, that was bind all the projects in the stack. And it was a big stack. I was hoping it would be farther into the year, and I had a few of them done before that one got chosen, but here we are. So I did, okay, so I've gotten the binding machine. So my technique is I machine sew the binding onto the front and then bend it over to the back side and hand stitch it in place on the back side. And I have 10 small pieces with the binding on the front, 5 large quilts with the binding on the front, 2 more large quilts waiting to have their binding sewn onto the front, and 15 and a half sitting in a stack waiting to have the binding hand sewn onto the back. That sounds really, really overwhelming when I say it out loud. But as we always say, it's good to have goals. So my goal is to get through all 15, actually plus 2, 17, all 17 of the stack quilts that need bound. So that's going to be what I'll be doing for the foreseeable future for sewing stuff, is putting the bindings on all of those things. But the good news is I already have 1.5 done, and you'll see the Valentine pillow is already on the couch, and I'm loving having that there because that makes me so happy and put together and decorated, and gives me motivation to finish the other things like the bench pillow for Valentine's Day that I took a photo of laying across my ottoman, because as soon as I get that finished, then that can go into the living room or wherever I decide to put it as the bench pillow. So those are both very exciting. I also have in this stack, sewn to the front but not the hand finishing done, a large bed size sort of Valentine feeling quilt that I didn't take a photo of yet, but I'll take a photo of it when it's done. I'd like to put that on the wall in the living room, but I think it might be too big width-wise to go in that space. So that kind of makes me think that I need to maybe make something this year that can go on the wall for next year. But, you know, with everything, the new house is a work in progress. I'm really enjoying figuring out where things go and figuring out what I like. I did hang 2 pieces of art this week from dear friends of ours that are from my home back in Pennsylvania, and that made me very happy. One of them is a pen and ink of a peacock that my friend Judy Hobson did, and she passed away several years ago. So I like looking at it because it reminds me of all the fun raku parties that we used to have at Bill and Judy's many years ago. And then the other piece is one of the Hemingway cats from Key West that our friend Robin Richards did. And I've never been to Key West, but every time I look at the cat, it makes me very happy and gives me a goal to someday get to Key West. I think it would be really cool to drive down there in the convertible or one of the or the Jeep with the top down, and just enjoy the sea spray and the tropical air, and then see the cats for myself. So I'm really excited about that. And when I think about getting things done and where they're going to go, then that motivates me to finish more things. So like I always say, it's good to have goals. And maybe I won't make it through all 17 this month, but I'll make it through a good chunk of them. Some of them are very small, so it shouldn't be that overwhelming. Maybe I'll do a little one and then a big one and then a couple of little ones. I don't know. Tell me what you think I should do to get through all 17, besides, give up sleeping. So, new and noteworthy. I'm so excited. Yesterday, I did some dyeing, and I put some color on our new Montedale and Tunis yarns. And I actually dyed a pair of our socks, and they turned out amazing. They're still drying, so the color isn't quite true yet, but as soon as they get done drying and I get them all ready and photographed, they'll be, I'm going to say next week, they'll be in the episode about our new and noteworthy. I've been playing around with color and trying to decide what I want the spring collection to look like. The spring collection will likely launch at Maryland. So I'm really excited about that. And being in the dye studio, actually with my friend Kathy, yesterday it was just so inspiring. It felt so creative, and I've been kind of pushing back that project because I was a little overwhelmed and a little out of my comfort zone. Generally, I'm not a dyer, but I am now because I have to be. We have so much new natural yarn that needs to be dyed yarn. So I have to figure it out. And yesterday, just working with Kathy, who's so experienced in the dye studio, really, really was a confidence boost. So the goal here is to launch our new spring line by Maryland Sheep and Wool. And because we're friends, you'll see the colors here first. And hopefully you'll be as excited about it as I am. So if there's any particular color that you're really hoping that I will bring out this spring, please let me know in the comments down below, because I'd love to have your input. I might not be able to put it into the spring collection, but I'll keep a little list of all of the colors that you request, and we'll see what we can do. I mean, it's good to have goals. And for in season, this is the gray season, man. It's just gray. We had one sunny day last week, and it was so exciting, and I really struggled with not dropping the top on the Jeep because it was 50 degrees, and I thought, the Jeep wants the top down. That's all I have to say about that. So I didn't do it, but it made me feel like that day is coming very soon, that winter is almost over. I know it's not. Stupid groundhog. But it made me have a little bit more hope and start thinking really seriously about all of the things that I want to do this spring. So I'm really excited about that part. I did make these amazing pull-apart rolls again this week, and I served them with my absolutely delicious beef stew. So I have to tell you about this beef stew. So it's basically the flavor of my childhood. And if you're about my age, you probably know what I'm talking about. My mother was a career woman. She was a professor of nursing at WVU, and my dad worked in a steel mill. And he liked the stick to your ribs, hearty meals. And mother was very overwhelmed and just trying to figure out how to get it on the table and get everything else done. So she was obsessed with the Peg Bracken books. If you know what I'm talking about, I'm sure you're giggling right along with me. But this particular recipe is from the Peg Bracken I Hate to Cook book. And it's called Stay Abed Stew. And I just absolutely love it. I probably had this recipe memorized by the time I was about 14, because when she was really busy, I would have to make it. And a lot of times we would make it together on the weekends and like put it in the oven before we left for church. And by supper time, we had a meal. So it's a really, really super easy recipe, low and slow in the oven. And my mother's ancient Le Creuset, big, heavy cast iron enameled roaster, I guess it is. It's not a Dutch oven, so I'm going to call it a roaster. But it was just the right size for a family of 3, and now it's just a little bit too big for a family of 2. And so there's enough left over that John has lunch for work the next day. And I think he would probably agree that it may even be better the next day. But it's super easy. And if you're at all interested, you can either look up Peg Bracken Stay Abed Stew. Abed is one word, ABED. Or I can drop my recipe in the comments down below if you're interested. But it's delicious. It's just, it just makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside. I've also been working more with that sourdough batter that I was telling you about. We made the pancakes a couple of weeks ago. This week, I found my waffle iron and we made waffles. And the beauty of these is it's a big batch, so you can put parchment in between and stick them in a zippy bag and stash them in the freezer. And they're like Lego My Eggo, only actually good for you deliciousness that you can pull out and pop in the toaster on a busy morning. So that's what I'm going to do again this week because I've had requests for more of those. And when I was telling my friend Lois about them yesterday, she was saying, oh, next time you have to send me one. So I'm going to rehome a few of the waffles this week. And I've also got plans to make, I think tomorrow, it's the Super Bowl tomorrow, I think, but that we're not sporty, so that doesn't really have any impact on us. But I think tomorrow I'm going to make pulled pork because I've been jonesing for the rub that Scooter and I got at Plowboys Barbecue in Kansas City. If you're from that area, go to Plowboys. It's awesome. It's my favorite rub. And so our local food market here, Giant Eagle, they had a buy one, get one special on Boston butt pork shoulders this week. So one went in the freezer and the other one will go in the oven tomorrow with the rub all over it for some pulled pork that will get us through the week. I like to use it in a lot of different things after I've made it. So that's going to get us through a lot this week. I also made my killer meatloaf again, which, yeah, John will eat cold meatloaf sandwiches of it. And it's a big hit. But the thing that I'm most excited about is the indoor gardening I've been doing. So I have a photo of my African violets. They got repotted this week. Actually late last week. I repotted all of my African violets from the nothing plastic pots that they come in from the garden center or the grocery store to some of my collection of McCoy pottery flower pots, which I absolutely love. They are, I think the two that these ones are in are turquoise, which I thought was one's turquoise, one's green, which I thought was a really good contrast with the vibrant, stereotypical violet, African violet pink, and the purple and white ruffled. And then I have two others that are just starting to bloom. One is the deep purple that's nearly black, and the other one is a lighter purple. And they also got repotted into my McCoy pots. I am looking for some larger McCoy pots that my Christmas cactuses can go in because they'll get ready now to go out and live on the patio in a shady spot for the summer because I like to take all of my houseplants on vacation to the patio when the weather is good. My freesia that lives in the living room that is absolutely enormous, it finally lost all of its leaves, so it is going dormant, and in probably 3 months or so, it will go back out on the patio, and maybe, hopefully this year, it will actually bloom. It has not bloomed yet, but it is quite large. So this morning, I ordered my tomato seeds, and that means that in the coming week, I will be getting my potting area in my laundry room in order and ready for all of my starts to go in down there. I got 6 or 7 different kinds of heirloom tomato seeds, mostly yellow. I prefer yellow tomatoes or the streaky red and yellow kind. There's a streaky one. I like two called Mr. Stripey and Marvel. If you're into tomatoes like I am, I got invited now to join the International Tomato Society or something. No, I don't need one more thing. But the Mr. Stripey and the Marvel are my two favorite stripey ones. And then I primarily raise a lot of yellow ones. Garden Peach, Pineapple. The only red ones I really like are Mortgage Lifter, Boxcar Willie, and Oxheart. So I don't think I got seeds for those three, but I might have. I was so excited I don't really remember what I picked, but if they come this week, maybe I'll bring them or take a photo of them for next week's episode. So that's what I'm really excited now, is starting to think about the garden and pruning the roses and pruning the I have the most beautiful cascading wisteria on a trellis in the back. Actually, it's not a trellis, it's almost like a pergola. But those will all need pruned, and I can't wait to do that. But it's 30 degrees and gray, so that's not happening anytime soon, except in my imagination. So I hope wherever you are, you're also thinking about all of the fun things you're going to do in the garden, and all the things that you're going to grow, and all the things that you're going to make to feed your family, and you're enjoying what's in season, which is comfort food and indoor gardening this week, as much as I am. So you can find us on down the road at the Nash Yarn Fest, which is in 34 days from today, 34 days. Oh, so excited. It's put on by Modern Daily Knitting, and Arnie and Carlos are going to be there, and it's going to be where all the cool kids are, so you should definitely come. Melinda's going with me to help hold down the booth, because with it being such a short window, preview Friday night and vending Saturday all day, we may have a lot of people. I know there's still some tickets available, but they're selling fast. So if you're coming, you should definitely look into that. Then the first weekend in May is the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival, which is super exciting every year. We are in barn 3 or 4, I never remember, but we are in a barn now. We moved up from the lower corral a couple of years ago, and we are in a barn in a double, and it will be amazing. I'm very excited about that. And then after that is the Great Lakes Fiber Show here in Worcester. We haven't been there since 2018, so I am very excited to go back. We took the year off in 2019 to go celebrate Scooter's birthday. He turned 50 that year, and then the pandemic happened, and I didn't get back until now. So I'm really excited about that. I get to see all my local peeps at that one. And then after that will be the Mid-Atlantic Fiber Association's annual conference in Millersville, PA. And that one is in late June, and it's MAFA, which is kind of a fun word to say. And then after that, I'll be at the Contemporary Handweavers Guild in Houston in mid-July. And that is also open to non-guild members. So if you are in Texas, look it up, check it out. I will be teaching at, I will be doing a weekend workshop on rare breeds at Houston in July. So that's really exciting. So that's pretty much what's going on here. And I've got to get back to work on that. So I'm going to invite you to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you're working on. Tell me what you like to cook this time of year. Tell me what you're going to raise in your garden. And go on over to social media. Post your projects that you're working in Cheviot and Jacob. Tag me and the hashtag anything along. And if you feel like something new, hop on over to the website at therossfarm.com and pick up either some Jacob or Cheviot or whatever else strikes your fancy. The new UK Jacob will be up there by tomorrow morning, by Sunday the 9th, by Sunday the 9th, and it is a fingering weight, 250 yard skeins, and two paler shades than our Alice. So if you wanted to do something to Keller, you could get a UK skein and a Ross Farm skein, and they would go together great. So until next week, I'm Amy, and I'm saying enjoy whatever you're working on, wherever you're at. Good night.